What's up guys, my name is Andrew, also known as Wandy The Maker, and this is Upcycled. I'm all about DIY fashion and using upcycling to construct or reconstruct garments. Whether it's hopping on new trends or experimenting with new styles, there's nothing more satisfying than creating your own piece of clothing that nobody else has. In today's episode, we're gonna be making some patchwork pants using about 10 to 12 different bandanas. And if there's one thing you know about me, it's that I love patchwork. So, let's get into it. So before we get started with the bandanas, we've got to make our pants pattern. So you just want to take a pair of pants that fit you pretty well. I'm using these camo pants that I thrifted, and we're going to roll out some pattern paper. You're going to want to fold it in half and lay them out flat. You're just going to take a pencil or pen and trace all the way around the pants, leaving about 1/2 inch of seam allowance. And now that I'm getting to the bottom, I'm leaving about 1 inch or so. And once we're getting up to the top, we're just gonna go up above the top part of the pants right here, about 3/4 of an inch more than the width of your elastic. We're just gonna cut this out, and you can cut right on the line since we added the seam allowance already. All right, so we have our front leg pattern. We're gonna do the same thing on the back. And I'm just cutting up the bandanas right now into different shapes and sizes. They don't need to be uniform. You can really play around with it. Now that we're done cutting our bandanas, we're gonna use our pattern and figure out the placement of all the pieces. And I like the fact that it's a bit uneven, because if they were all just uniform shaped, it would look a little bit like a checkerboard, and this way it just gives it a different feel. Now that the pieces are all laid out, it's time to start sewing them together. I like to work my way up from the bottom, and I'm just sewing this with a straight stitch with about 1/4 inch seam allowance. Just doing a back stitch to secure that seam. All right, so I'm just gonna keep working my way up. Now that we have this whole sheet sewn together, we're gonna use our pattern to cut out the leg shape. And we're gonna go ahead and start lining. I am using some satin for this lining, and I went ahead and cut out a shape using the pattern we made, a little bit bigger. I'm just gonna start pinning around. I like to use lining because bandanas are really thin and even see-through at times, and it just covers up those inside seams and makes them a bit more comfortable. I also chose satin because it's a non-stretch material, just like the bandanas. All right, now that we've got the leg panel pinned to the lining, we're just gonna use a straight stitch and sew all the way around the outside. And when I get to a corner, I make sure that the needle is down, so that when I raise the foot, it's not moving around. Back down and ready to go. All right, now that we have the leg panel sewn onto the lining, we're just gonna trim this excess off here using some scissors. This part is completely optional. I like to add an external pocket, just like this one here. I drafted the pattern myself, pretty much the same steps as the pant lining, and I would place it right here and sew it onto the pant leg. Now that we have the front panel prepared, you repeat those steps for the back, like this, and then we're just gonna pin those together, right sides facing each other. I like to start on this point right here in the crotch area, and I'm just doing a straight stitch with about 1/4 inch seam allowance. You're just gonna repeat this process for the other side. And for this next step, you're gonna wanna have one leg inside out and the other one normal. And I like to just put my hand up the leg like this. And basically you're gonna feed it through the other leg so the right sides are together. Line up these two seams right here. And then we're just gonna pin all the way down on both sides. And do a straight stitch with 1/4 inch seam allowance. For the bottom hem, you're gonna fold it about 1 inch down and then pin it all the way around. You gotta make sure you're not sewing the pant leg together. We're just gonna repeat that process on the other leg. So now, we're gonna go ahead and do this elastic waistband. You're gonna look at the top and fold down a little bit wider than the width of your elastic. So once I have it pinned, I'm just gonna hold it up and make sure it's even. And we're gonna sew a straight stitch all the way around, but we're gonna leave a 2 inch opening for the elastic. For my elastic, I found that it's just your normal waist size minus a few inches. I like to use a safety pin to help feed it through a lot easier. And then we're gonna sew this elastic together. I like to use a zigzag stitch just to make it more secure, and I go back and forth a few times. Now we're gonna sew up this hole on our waistband, and then we'll be done. Turn these the right way, and look at your creation. I'm excited to try these on. Let's get it. Bandana pants are definitely super sick. I like everything about this style, these colors specifically. I really like how the green pops. And go ahead and check out your local thrift stores and see what you can find. You can find all different types of materials to make your own pair of patchwork pants. Once again, I'm Wandy The Maker, and I'll catch you back here next week for a new episode of Upcycled.